Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. And this podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach. And it's all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host, and I have a special guest that I'll introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love for you, as you're here, to leave a comment, ask a question, and always remember to like, subscribe, and share. So, this beautiful woman right here in front of me is Deborah Weed. And I'm super excited to have you here, Deborah. And so, we're going to get into, we've got Joanna, yes. Good to have you here. That's beautiful. Thank you. And so, if you have any questions as we go, make sure you ask them, and I'll try to keep track of things so that Deborah can answer, because she's got this amazing thing that she has created in the world. And I only know little bits and pieces of it. So, if you don't mind, Deborah, just go ahead and jump in and start telling us about what it is that you're doing now, and then we'll kind of track out to where this began.
Absolutely. What I'm doing right now, Vicki, would you agree that there is a crisis in empathy with our children?
Oh yes, definitely.
Do you see that they are seeing so much division right now between whether it be race, whether it be color, whether it be, well, I said that already, but whether it be politics, whether it be anything for that matter, they're seeing all the adults have so much division. And one of the things that they really don't have when they're very, very young is self-worth.
Right.
Now, there's a big difference between self-worth and self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Self-esteem is like when you do something amazing and then you feel really good about yourself. So you're always striving to get that thing. But self-worth is how you inherently feel inside. And I personally have found and seen that these kids just don't even know what self-worth is. Their parents don't have time, and there needs to be a solution. And I think I have it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, before you start that, one of the things that just popped in my mind is maybe they're not teaching their children the self-worth thing because they don't have it themselves, because that's something that adults really struggle with a lot, is having their self-worth.
You're so right. The biggest indicator for children to have self-worth is if the mom and dad have self-worth.
Yeah.
They're always observing. They're really taking in what they see. And so it really is the parent, it's the whole culture.
Yeah.
And I have to say that one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it is because I didn't have self-worth. And I know how it feels. So as the origin story, there's a lot, that I had to go through to come to this. But essentially, let's start with this. Did you know that if you have a 1943 pure copper, well, it's got to be a D, pure copper penny, it could be worth $1 million?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, a lot of people don't know that. In your pocket right now, you could have $1 million and not even know it. And yet, a penny is something that you would think is worthless, absolutely worthless. So many people wouldn't even pick it up on the ground. So for a young child, how do you teach self-worth?
Mm-hmm.
For me, the way that I processed it is, and I had a really tough time where this particular penny became my personal hero, because I saw that I didn't have any self-worth, and yet something so insignificant could be worth that much because it was made by mistake. So here's what I mean by that. back in World War II, they had to have steel. They used a lot of steel and copper, and usually they would put a steel slat inside the copper penny. But 13 pennies were made by mistake where the slat was not put in. And so that's what makes them so valuable. Can you imagine? It's the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Mistake. It's not because they're perfect.
Yeah.
It's a mistake. Okay. So
Right.
with that said, and with my imagination and kind of the trauma that happened and the penny being my hero, I imagined this world where two pennies are at an auction and one penny is Alistair and he's perfect. He's never been touched. He's in a plastic case and he feels superior and better than any other penny in the world because he thinks he knows his worth, which is monetary, and he feels like that's all that matters. And then there's Henry. And Henry is probably more like all of us. Henry has been in the garbage can. He's been on the streets alone. He has been somebody's lucky penny. He's been in a washing machine ride. So it's like a roller coaster. And he's been in a bank. So he knows that more and more pennies add up. When they go to be sold, Alistair does get sold for a lot more money. But when he gets sold for a lot more money, he needs to go into a silver box, never to be seen again. And at first he's very excited about it, but then it's like all of us who are in a box and it's sort of like, yeah, we've got this corporate thing down, and yet there's no more joy. It's kind of like it's an analogy for children and for adults. And then it's what happens to Henry in the end. That's the twist. And that's what makes it so charming. So I wrote this book in 2009, actually, Vicki. And then after that, I created music and I made it into a musical and we did it. And the music is so much fun. The kids loved it. And we did the musical interactive musical in New York and in Miami, all over the place. Tremendously successful. The most brilliant part of the show wasn't even the show, even though that was great. It was the talk back where we got to see, or parents would be able to see what their kids were really thinking. Because we'd ask, well, who's more valuable? Is it Henry? Is it Alistair? And why? And then to have, it was kind of like Art Linkletter for kind of, where the kids would say the craziest thing, like one of the little boys, I'll never forget this, we asked, why are you lucky? And he says, because I don't live in the forest. It's like,
okay.
He's really lucky about. I like that. But there was no wrongs. And we would see the parents crying. We would see the parents just really getting what their children were getting to. And I felt so good because it was like I was a joy monger, if you will.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we couldn't take the show out, couldn't take the music and the joy. I didn't see the smiles anymore. And I did go on a path writing another book, but another physical challenge happened in my life. And I was like, okay, I got to be able to get this out there right now. Now it's almost an imperative. We need to teach or give some kind of a net to our children with this self-worth. And so it was like, okay, let me turn it into animation. But I've never done animation. And let me go ahead and see if I can do an app. But I've never done an app. So in other words, I am working like around the clock to bring something hopefully global and magnificent. And the best part of it is along the way, I'm galvanizing a lot of people who think like I do, because here's the bottom line. I think that the kids can lead the way. I think that they can be the beacon and the light in everything, all the chaos is happening, and kind of right the way that parents are thinking, because we've got too many habits. life has hurt. We've experienced so much. We've had the slings and arrows where a lot of us are broken, me included.
Yeah.
So, or, I had been. So it's like, I'm taking what had happened and I'm creatively moving forward with lightning speed to bring something magnificent to the masses.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, that's a lot to be working on. And so I applaud you for sure because, the thought of you doing the musical is a lot to start with. And then thinking of creating an app and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much there and so much learning opportunity because once you do it once, I'm sure you could do it again. So the next thing that comes up, it'll be a breeze. It'll be a breeze. So let's go back to when you were younger, and where did you get this feeling of not having the self-worth, and how did you recognize it and utilize that thing to propel you to here?
Well, that's really easy. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any empaths out there, you're going to get this. You're going to get it right away. So when I was a little girl, I was like Shirley Temple. I was the kind of kid that skipped. I was the kind of kid that thought everybody was my best friend and didn't understand for the life of me why people wouldn't be my friend or would pick on me. I was the kind of kid that, just would talk to my dad, would say, Deborah, we had a blind guy come in and you just naturally, as a little girl, was taking him around saying, oh, and over here we have this and over here we have that. Kind of a little social worker at heart, but I didn't fit in. I really didn't fit in. I was also bullied terribly. Everybody said that I was too sensitive, I was too.
You were too much of something all the
Too
time,
much
right?
of this, I was too much of that.
Yeah.
And I started to repress that and be ashamed of it, even though that was who I am and
Right.
was, because I didn't understand. I kind of like got to this world and was like, what happened?
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
it's
belong here.
it's funny because when I was a kid, and I was sharing this the other day in the Facebook group, but when I was a kid, I was one of the ones when the camera was out, I was popping up, I was photo bombing everything, and I wanted to be the center of attention, it was look at me, look at me, look at me kind of thing. And then as I got older, it was like I started pressing that down because that's when you start standing out and all you want to do is blend in at that age, right? And so I suppressed it for a very, very long time. And I learned this art of whoever I spoke to, I spoke like they did. So with their emotions, their thoughts and everything, because, well, I'm a hairstylist too. So as a hairstylist, you learn when a client comes in and sits down, if you've never done their hair before, you listen to the way they talk and everything, you mirror them a little bit, and that way you can connect and you can have better rapport and understand them better. So it's a gift as well, but I used it in other areas to where I didn't speak up for myself. I didn't speak my truth. And that's why I started my podcast, because I felt like I had filtered my voice my whole life. In one way or another, I had filtered my voice. I'm I'm a middle child. I'm the people pleaser. I want to make sure everybody's getting along. And if there's an argument afoot and I don't think it's going to help anything, I'll back off and not have the argument, because if it's not going to solve anything, why go through all the anguish, right? So when I wanted to try to change something, the only thing I could think of was a podcast, because I watched podcasts and some of them are, really in your face and stuff, and I thought, it's not that I want to be that, but I can just speak however I want to speak and say whatever I want to say, and it's okay. And that's why I started my podcast. And that's why I don't edit either, because to me, it felt counterintuitive. It felt like I was lying to myself if I said, I'm speaking my truth, but then I go in and I edit the thing afterwards, right? So if I say too many ums, or I make a mistake, or I just totally flub everything, it's there and I'm proud of it. Now I'm proud of it. If I make a mistake and it's there for everybody, I laugh and I just go on. But it used to not be that way. So the podcast changed my life.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty profound. I've never
Yeah.
heard somebody say that with that eloquence. But Vicky, that's like huge. And all of your viewers should really take that in, because when I was, I've had some high level jobs. One of them was the director of development for Citibank, 19 branches.
Mm.
Boy, did I play that game. I did not smile. I dressed to the T. I did the thing where I reserved myself. I was totally professional because I
Hmm.
wanted to show everybody else that that little sensitive kid. Well, ha, you made fun of her, but look at this one
Yeah.
over here.
Look at me.
Look at me now. Look at me now. And it's like, I would have been your best friend back then and
Yeah.
maybe now, because I really understand what you're saying when it comes to, the throat chakra, not being able to speak up for yourself and not being true to yourself, because essentially we do want to be loved. We do
Hmm.
want to fit in. We do want to matter. And
Yeah.
yet sometimes that's just the thing that takes us down.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. And, I wish everybody would feel the calmness and the ability to just stand up and step up and stand out, to be able to speak and not be worried about the repercussions. But I'll be honest, this is the first time I've done the podcast live on YouTube, and then I'll be putting it on the other platforms. But I was a little nervous because I thought, it's one thing to say all this and we're recording, because then I can really, in the back of my mind, it's always wiggling around there. Well, if it turns out really bad, you can just skip that one, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I wouldn't do it. I haven't done it once. And I've had some strange things happen, but it's like it was always back there, my safety net kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And so when it came time, when you sent me the message and said, is this live or is it recorded? And I had been kind of teasing a little bit with, I'll do a live, because I do lives, but not with my podcast, right? And so when you sent me that message, I said, okay, God, I get it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it live. And so that's why we're here. And I was sharing with you before we got on that as I was reaching out to some of my friends and letting them know that we were going to be here. And of course, a lot of them said it was late notice and they wouldn't be able to. But one of them reached out and said, oh, that's cool. So does that mean every Wednesday night at 7:00 you're going to be doing a live? And I thought, oh, pressure, I don't know. Let me kind of digest this one and then we'll see. Because I don't have a particular day. Yes, I've thought that a lot. I can always delete it. Yes.
Somebody's with us. I can tell.
Yeah.
Somebody's with us. Yeah.
That's right. So, I mean, I don't do my podcast on particular days. They're just like this week, I've got one every day, So I guess I could keep doing that and just make one of them live. But right now I'm going to see what feels good in the moment and go ahead and go with that, But I just wanted to share that for anybody that's watching or when you're listening, that it was even though I go live all the time, this felt different.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I was thinking when you were talking, Vicky, can you imagine if we could edit our lives?
Well,
you know what? That's what social media is. That's what social media is. It's like, look at me at the top of the mountain and do not look at me.
Yeah. And sometimes it's somebody's else's mountain they're showing you too. It's not always theirs. That's the funny thing to me.
Exactly.
But thinking about editing live, one of the things that I talk about quite often is that everything that's happened in our life, like our mosaic life, creates who we are. You change any one thing and we're a different person. And so like I was sharing this morning, there was a gentleman that I had on my podcast previously, and he was involved in a shooting accident
Ooh,
where
wow.
he, as a teenager, and was in a coma and he lost his ability to speak and to move and everything. Well, he's gained it all back. You can't tell by looking at him that a damn thing happened. But now he's a speaker. He's written a book and all these things. And so the way I shared it this morning is I said, just think if that bad thing hadn't happened to him, not saying that it was a good thing that it happened, but there's good things that came out of it. But what if it hadn't happened? He had scholarships for several different kinds of sports. He was going into college. He had gotten several different scholarships to different schools, and he hadn't decided what he was going to do. What if he had decided that he was going to play baseball? This accident didn't happen. He went to college. He played baseball. He was really good, but he didn't even make the farm league. Or maybe he did make the farm league, but he didn't go on to be a professional. And so now he's working at Bob's tire store, and he's, going to work every day, and he's not fulfilling his purpose. And so it's sometimes I think God steps in and says, okay, I know this is a terrible thing, but you have no idea what this is going to do for your life in the long run. And bam, there you go. And so I feel like anything when I look back and anything that in part of my mind would say, I wish that hadn't happened. I sit with that for a little bit and say, okay, that did happen. And why did it happen? It had to propel me towards something else. What is that thing that I grew in? What is that thing that I now can do because that happened? And I think if we could take the time to look at our life in that way, even horrible things that happen to people, they can find something if they look hard enough. And that's what takes the sting out of those things, is when you're not looking at it as a victim, but you're looking at it as a victor, because you've gotten this amazing skill, this learning, whatever it is, has come because of it, not in spite of.
Well, I'm really hearing you, and I have to say I've had some really traumatic things happen to me. I mean, like take me down, and I was a victim because I didn't know any better. But I want to share what my dad taught me.
Okay.
Couple of things. There was one time, and this is like I have a couple of really good stories, but this is one of my favorites. I had come home. I had PTSD. Just gotten a divorce. Small child. Had to live with my parents, and I got really sick. And when I got really sick, my dad and I would walk around the block here and there, and I was telling him, "Look, I can hardly function. And my friends, the people that I inspired, they're out there having magnificent lives. And I feel like I'm on the sidelines. I feel like I don't even matter anymore." And he said, "Okay, I tell you what, when we get back, I want you to get a bowl of water, and I want you to get some blue dye, food dye." So I did. I mean, this is kind of my crazy dad. I'm like, my life is over. And he's like, "Honey, go get some water and some food dye, and I'm going to show you something." So I play along. I get the water and the food dye, and he says, "Okay, put 3 drops in there." So I put 3 drops in there, and he takes his finger and he swirls the water around, and I'm watching, and everything becomes blue. And he says, "Okay, sweetheart, go ahead, and even if it takes all night, I want you to get the 3 drops of blue that you put in there." I'm like, "Dad, that's impossible. I'm looking at the water and it's like all blue." And he said, "Exactly. Exactly. It's impossible to remove the catalyst from the outcome. Every person that you've touched, they have 3 drops of blue of you in them. And so whatever they do, you're part of that. And whatever you do, they're part of what you do." And I don't know why, Vicki, but my dad would tell me all these stories, as I went through all these traumatic things. And somehow it gave me comfort, because I'm thinking of the person who might be watching this. And, for me to say, yes, I have triumphed now. And now I'm doing amazing things, even though I've gone through some really gnarly times. I have to also say that when people said it was easy, or that it was, when I felt like life was over,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get there. I just couldn't be in that mindset. There's something different that I guess that I feel now, and that is just to say I care.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
right now I'm seeing so many people that are breaking, and my heart, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I want to do that's what's galvanizing me, because I see and feel the pain, because it feels like me. It feels like that's what I experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I say that about being a victim, it's not that something bad didn't happen. It's that we can choose to let it bring us down to where we can't get out ever again. Or we can choose to find some little thing in there that is for positive, because God doesn't make mistakes. So whatever it is was something about that was supposed to teach us something. Or maybe it makes us stronger, makes us
Yeah.
have more empathy. Maybe it makes us, to start creating this musical thing that you have, right? Because it's those accumulative things, however horrible they were, that got you to the place where this was so friggin' important that you friggin' are trying to figure out, well, let me do an app. Let me do this. I haven't done that before. Hell, I'll do it. But you might not have ever had that determination or that strength without those things happening. That's what I mean.
Absolutely. That I wholeheartedly agree with, because the empathy, I mean, like right now, it's like there'd be no way I'd be doing what I'd be doing if I hadn't had all those things happen. It's just
Yeah.
along the way. I wrote a post today, and I guess that's where it brings me full circle. It's like, would you ever stop reading a book when you got to the bad part? Or do you lean in and go, "Oh my God, that's the best book. I was up all night. I couldn't put it down because because they were in trauma, and I
Yeah.
wanted to
I
know
want to know, how did they make it out?
what was going to happen." So there's absolutely no doubt about the triumph. I guess I just wanted to also be honest with myself,
Yeah.
say that there have been times in my life where I did feel like a victim, and I felt shameful about that. It felt
Yeah.
terrible to kind of walk around knowing that positive, everybody's like, okay, positive thinking, let's go. And feeling like I couldn't do that. It just made me feel inadequate.
I
And
get
yet,
you.
what you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
Now, today, I look back and I go, it was all a blessing. Absolutely, positively. I would never be doing what I'm doing. I would never have the guts to just, do half the stuff that I'm visualizing for the future if all that hadn't happened.
Yeah. And we all, when things bad happen, we all kind of fall down this rabbit hole of despair. That's just human nature. And I think what's important when that happens is that we feel it, and then we quickly, release the chokehold that it has on us, because that chokehold just going to keep you going down and down and down and down. And I think in the beginning, before you start doing this kind of work and everything, that man, that chokehold is gonna hold you down a lot. I've had times that it was like, I don't even know why the hell I even get up in the morning, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
So I can't imagine a person alive that hasn't had a time that they felt something like that. And sometimes it doesn't take something that dramatic to make that happen. The thing that helps me is knowing that I have a choice. I can choose to feel it and let it go, or I can feel it, wallow in it, bury myself in it, and just hang out there forever. And I choose not to. And, and that's always easier said than done. I'm not saying that, anybody that's having any, problems or anything that they're supposed to all of a sudden be happy. Because one of the things I share is, have you ever heard about the emotional scale? And I know we're getting off topic, but have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of emotion. I think so.
Okay. Well, because I keep it right here all the time. And that's so I can always refer to it to see if I feel like I'm not in a good place, I can look and say, well, where am I and where was I? So for instance, um, there it's 1 through 22. One is joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, acceptance. And then 22 is fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. That's the bottom of the scale, and the other's at the top of the scale. But let's say, for instance, today you were sitting and you were angry as hell, right? That is a 17. So that is definitely better than fear, grief, right? So if you were at anger and then you were able to do something, whether it was to laugh, or have a conversation, or whatever it is that brings you up just a little bit, the next one up is discouragement. So if you feel anger and then the next day you're discouraged, you're coming up, And I think sometimes we don't recognize that as our emotions are changing, they may not be the most positive emotion, but we're still moving up to where we can get to that place. And I think a lot of times when you're really diving into a lot of self-help, you expect to go from, oh, total anguish to I'm happy. And that's not necessarily going to happen like that, right? That's a blast. And so to me, I love having this. And like I said, it's laminated and it sits right here by my desk all the time. So that if I ever have one of those times where I think yesterday I was feeling this and today, oh my gosh, I can look at it and I can see, well, even though it's not great, I've moved up. And my goal is to stay at the top part of it most of the time. But I'm human too. So, I'll fall down in this little rabbit hole. And then the trick is to not stay there as long. Right. So that's what feels good to me, is to know that this emotional scale is something that I can look at and pull myself out of. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And you said something very important, Vicki, at least to me. You feel things. That I know that this is going to sound crazy, but there's a lot of us out there that learned not to. We feel it, but we don't allow the feelings to come up and be processed. When you
Yeah.
talk about the chokehold, I know for as a kid being sensitive, my mom, I'm sure a lot of us were not allowed to show our feelings for whatever reason. And so they get stuck, and that's why we get sick, or that's why things happen. So I think that the thing that you differentiated right off the bat was that you somehow have learned and maybe teach people, and maybe with the hypnotism, how to actually have the feeling and then process it rather than hiding it from yourself, holding on to it, because it gets very, very confusing
And
when
heavy.
people say be positive but then feel anger, be happy but then don't feel sad. So it's sort of like, what do you do with that? I mean,
Yeah.
very, very confusing. So I think that you highlighted something that will be essential for people to understand, because it's
Oh,
only taken me until now to figure this out.
oh, beautiful. Thank you for that. So I want to get back to your penny. So one of the stories that I tell people, and it's not necessarily about the worth, I don't think, but I tell them a penny story about, being grateful for what you have, right? So if you get out of the car and you look down and there's a penny there, and you're feeling a little bit lacking in your finances, so to speak, you pick up the penny and you say, thank you for my prosperity. It's only a penny, but where does that $1,000,000 come from? It starts with a penny. Where does that $100 come? It starts with a penny. And so, I love that you are talking about the different values of the penny, because I used to watch, there was a show on YouTube that he did where he would show different coins and their value so that you could start looking. And so I haven't looked at it in such a long time. I don't even know if he's still there, but I don't ever take a penny and just cash it or do whatever. I look at it really quick, and I may still miss, some valuable pennies. And my valuable penny right now, and this is going to sound silly, but I've got 2 pennies in there now that are worth 10 cents a piece.
That's awesome. It's not silly. It really, it's all. the reason that this works for kids is
Mm-hmm.
because it's an analogy that kids can understand.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's simple. It's a
Yeah.
very, trying to, I have a ad that I put together. It's like trying to teach self-worth to a 6-year-old is like trying to herd cats. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you going to do? You have to
Speak
be
on their language. Yeah.
clever. And also like the music in this is like, oh gosh, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's so
I
enchanting.
have not. I need to hear it.
So much fun. It's so much fun. If I'm brave enough, maybe before we get off, I'll sing one of their favorite songs. But I am not a singer, and of course, I have nice tracks. So I might talk about live. People might go, "Oh, well, that was their song," instead of hearing the Broadway version of it.
It's kind of like going, and all of a sudden it made me think, remember the artist Milli Vanilli? You
Yeah,
remember? Yeah. Where they lip sync all their songs and everybody said, what? Who is that? Yeah. So it won't be like that though, I promise.
Or maybe I could play it along with me. So at least I don't know. Sometimes when you put things on Zoom or whatever, it kind of comes out weird. But there's just a couple of songs that I really love.
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to the self-worth, self-esteem, I think that what you're talking about is essential, especially for women, because a lot of my friends, a lot of the people that I know, they haven't processed feelings. They really don't have the self-worth. They have the self-esteem. They can
Mm-hmm.
show you what they've done, and they're very proud of that. But
Yeah.
as far as really knowing that they are invaluable, that they matter, sometimes that's hard, especially when the world feels like it's crumbling around you.
Yeah. And the evidence is not there
Yeah,
to
that's
to
not,
see because we're all looking for evidence for who we are and our place in the world. And if we have no self-esteem, then the people and the things that come around us are going to be proving that to us every single time. And it's almost like it's a catch 22, it's which came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's getting that self-esteem in and really feeling it and being it that actually starts changing this stuff that the people that you interact with, the things in your environment, they all begin to change, not instantaneously, thank God, because if we were to think about a rhinoceros and suddenly one was right here, it'd be kind of scary, wouldn't it? So I like that there's a delay, a little bit of delay.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for the delay. We really appreciate it. And I agree with you I totally agree with you on that because when I was really sad for whatever reason, the world looked sad. And now it's like now I feel like I'm one of those annoying joyous people.
Yeah, me too. I have a friend that says I have rose-colored glasses all the time.
Well, yeah, I take off the glasses, I put them on, I take them off, I put them on. But it's funny. That's the other thing that I really want to share right now. For whatever reason, I feel a real strong calling to share this.
Well, then do it.
You don't know what a person's going through in their lives, no matter
Amen.
what you see them going through. Can I give a quick story?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, this is a story that happened a long time ago. True story. I was in line at a Starbucks. Oh, it was like a Barnes and Noble, and there was a barista, and he had tats on, and he had his, the wild earrings, long hair, and he was taking the drinks, and he was like pounding them on the counter, and being like so rude. And I'm standing like maybe 4 people back watching this whole thing, going, "Oh my gosh." This guy is just like, part of me is like, somebody's got to teach him a lesson and teach him how to treat people. But I kind of know better. So by the time I got up to him, I said, you look really upset. Is something wrong? And he kind of looked at, it's like, you know how somebody
It
does
was a break in the system there, right?
it was like a double take. And then he kind of looked at me like whether he could say something or not. And then he goes, no. He goes, my mom has cancer. She's in the hospital, and I don't know if she's going to make it. And I was like, proof of, humanity. So I went, after I got my maybe not pounded coffee. I went and got a card. I went to get a card for his mom, wrote it out, and gave it to him. And the next time I came into that coffee shop and he saw me, his smile was beatific. It was gorgeous. And he, as soon as he saw me, he said, "Thank you for the card. It really meant a lot to my mom. She made it. She's okay." And it just taught me that sometimes people will see me, and I will be rude or however somebody perceives me to be. And at
Right.
that moment, I'm in crisis. But
Yeah.
people see me as Deborah, the happy person, or Deborah,
Yeah.
the successful person, or whatever they've marked me at. So I guess that was that. For whatever reason, I just wanted to share that we just don't know. Even if somebody looks like they're so happy and they've got it all
Yeah.
together, they could be crumbling.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I had a coach that I worked with, and unfortunately, I only got 3 weeks into the program, and he passed away. And when he passed away, we found out a lot of different things that he was dealing with, as being his students, I guess you would say.
Mm.
And it was heartbreaking because he had this smile about him, and he was so amazing. And it's going to make me cry,
That's okay.
but he
I'll cry
changed.
with you.
He was so amazing for me, and I only got 3 weeks with him, and then he was gone. But we had no idea the things that he was dealing with, while he was coaching us and smiling and helping us, and um, encouraging, and all the things that he did, while inside he had a lot of stuff. And um, and it was like mind-boggling, right?
Right.
And then another instance I'll just share real quick, now that we're gone down this little rabbit hole.
It's not a rabbit hole. This is where we needed to go, Vicky. This is
That's right.
this is
Yeah.
what people need to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about pennies all day and glossy things, but there's crisis right now, and there's somebody out there suffering, and they need to hear the truth, and they need to see your tears and my tears, because I'm crying along with you, because I don't know this guy and I already love him.
Yeah. He was amazing. But like I said earlier, I'm a hairstylist, and one day I had a client come in, and I'd been doing her hair for a long time, and for some reason, when she came in that day, she sat down, and I could just tell something was off, right? But I had no clue. And so I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Well, I've had better days." And my statement, which I wish I could have just brought it back in, I said, "Well, you know what they say, that doesn't kill us makes us stronger." And
Where are you going?
she stopped right there. Her motion, she was doing something, and her motion just stopped. And I was standing right here, and she turned and she looked at me, and she said, "Well, my mother committed suicide today." And you talk about, I've never said that statement to anybody ever again. But it was such a heartbreaking moment. And she had her sister with her because she was getting her sister's hair done. And I didn't know, but it was because they were going to go to the wake. And so it was one of those times that, you just want to take it back, and you can't. But like I said, I've never said it again, because we don't know, right?
We don't know. We
Yeah.
really don't know.
Yeah.
No matter what, you don't know. And that was really courageous for you to share that, because Vicky, I keep on getting goosebumps. Do you have any, like, are you going to have to hypnotize me after we're done? So that I'm clean. Well,
Oh,
that's beautiful, because I think that what I'm hearing you say more than anything else is that even those kind of people have such an impact on us that we
mhm.
remember it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have happy people, but sometimes when you see somebody that goes beyond the pale when it comes to courage, or you see somebody who's vulnerable, it's almost like they've given you a golden ticket and allowed you to be human, which
Yeah.
I wish we could all be every day.
Yeah. Well, I will say that that client still kept coming in, and um, I don't know how many times I apologized to her, and she said, "It's okay, you didn't know." And but it was one of those life lessons. And the funny thing is that I do is there are so many life lessons we have. So I used to one of the things that I would do if something happened that was like, sometimes it was a catastrophe, sometimes it was just a big snafu, right? And I would give it a number. I would say, well, that was life lesson number 78, because it was something small. And if it was something bigger, I'd say, well, that was life lesson number 285. I would just pick a number out of the hat. So if it was really bad, it was like 2,575. And so I would number them all the time. For some reason it made me feel better.
No, I understand that. That actually makes sense. It's kind of like trying to put logic into something that's inexplainable.
Yeah.
Give it a number. Give it a number. Next time you should give it an ice cream flavor. That's what I think.
Ooh, I'll try that.
Next time you should be like, ooh, chocolate. Oh no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Now
Yeah. That one
it
was
is
pistachio, I'm sure. Because I don't like pistachio.
I love pistachios. See?
Well,
There you go.
see, I'll give you all my
That's
pistachio ice cream.
number 28 instead of the 2000.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, goodness. Alex says, love the ice cream flavor. Well, see, we can break the darkness with a little bit of laughter, because laughter goes so far to change the vibration and the mood and the feel, right? And not too long before we got on here, I was watching a little thing on TikTok, and it was this little baby laughing because they put whipped cream in his hand, and then he laughed. He took a bite, and then they put it on his leg and his foot, and every time they would put some on him, he was just laughing. So I spent some time in laughter before we got on here.
That's the thing to do. Actually, laughter saved my life on one of my go rounds. It literally did. Not even a joke.
Oh, well, do share, do share.
Ooh, this is a juicy one.
All
So
right.
I had, between a lot of the I've had many incarnations of mystery illnesses, but one of them was I had dissection of my neck, which means that there's a blood vessel that goes kind of like this. I don't drive to this day because if you turn, they said it's like a time bomb. You could die immediately.
Ooh, okay.
So I was supposed to get gadolinium to make sure, an MRA to make sure that that was okay. But when they did the MRA, they put the gadolinium in my arm, but they missed my vein. They put it in my arm. So that would be like mainlining mercury. And so my arm blew up like this, and I got like deathly sick. Come to Palm Beach, go to an acupuncturist. The acupuncturist is putting all the needles in me. And then he says to me, Deborah, you're going to die unless you do something else. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm paying you to save my life. What am I going to do? And he's like, well, what you're going to do is you're going to take improv. And I'm like, excuse me? I can hardly walk. What do you mean? He goes, I'm assessing who you are. You're way too creative. I could put needles into you, until you're a porcupine, and it's not going to work. You must take improv classes. I'm like, okay. And so I did. And the funny thing is that I had always been a producer doing, creating shows, doing that thing. And here I am taking improv classes and laughing and laughing and laughing. And I literally laughed myself back to life, because most people who have that kind of thing with the gadolinium, they just don't ever come back. Now, I know it affected my life differently than most, but that's just one instance of the power of laughter.
Yeah. And that you brought that up, you need to come to the masterclass that we're having, because I don't know if you've seen the stuff, but I'm teaching with using hypnosis and visualization and everything, but I partnered with Laura Westman, and she teaches improv.
I was at that thing that one time.
That's right. Yes.
It was so cute. It was adorable. I loved it.
And so it was like, the perfect, like she was on my podcast. And as we were talking and everything, I had already had all these ideas of this program that I was going to create and these master classes and everything. And I said, you know what? I said, one of the things that I need to be doing more is this laughing and having fun and jumping around and doing things, right? I said, come on, let's do this together. And she was all on board. So yeah, so it's a beautiful thing. And we just have having a blast with it. I can't wait for the program to start so that we can really dive into it a little bit more. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I have almost gone and done improv a few times, but for whatever reason, it was at the wrong night. It was too far away. There was always something that I didn't get to do it. And then when I met her, it's like, okay, I think I see this trend here. I see how it keeps coming for me. So I got it.
But you have that kind of vibrant, effervescent personality. So it makes total sense that well, you're enlightened and
Yeah,
you're enlightened peach.
that's right. That's
So
right.
what better thing to have a enlightened peach that's filled with laughter? Makes sense.
Yes. Thank you. And you know how the Enlightened Peach came about?
No, I don't.
Um, it used to be Life Transformed Coaching was the company that I had, the
Ooh, what's the
business.
difference? I love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
name. Just vibrant.
And my daughter was a yoga teacher and she did a lot of other things. And so we decided we were going to partner together. Now we're from Georgia, right? So I kept thinking, so what do we do? What do we do? So she's the peach. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm enlightened. So we're the enlightened peach. And that's how that became
Oh,
the enlightened peach. Yeah.
how sweet. That's
Yeah.
such a sweet story.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, live.
That's right. Live and in person. Well, almost in person, right? So I want everybody to know that's because we've got some people on here, and let's just see if there's. Can you see the comments?
If I have my glasses on,
Oh, okay.
no,
Okay.
I cannot.
So yes, no, yes.
No, I cannot see the comments.
Okay, it's kind. I thought you would be able to see them.
I just
Okay.
comment thing. Hi, Alex. Hi, Jana. Oh, we got some laughter. We got an amen. When did the amen happen? I don't even know. Well, actually,
So,
it's 7:21.
and Alex just said hi.
Right. Hi, Alex. How are you? I
Well,
love you too. She said that I love this.
yes. Well, the thing that I think is I wanted to make sure that I told everybody is that once we finish, I will definitely be putting all of your links to all of your stuff in the comments or in the description so that they can reach out to you if they need to check out all of your stuff. But we're getting close to time, so you ready to share a song?
Oh, we got.
You said it now. You said it.
Oh my goodness. All right, Alex, Jana, what do you think? Should I do it? All right. So,
Tell her yes. Tell her yes.
you know what I'll do to back myself up a little bit? I
Okay.
will have the music going so it won't be just me singing.
Okay. You're
Right.
not into acapella, right?
The whole show is musical, and then what I found is that music really resonates with children, and they subconsciously know what's going on. So
Right.
there's a lot of beautiful songs, but their favorite song was called PU, and this is where Henry has to go into the garbage can. So here we go. Can you hear it? Here we go. P-U, what am I gonna do? P-U, what am I gonna do?
I'm stuck in a smelly garbage can, but am I really stuck? Will I choose another path and can I change my luck? I'm stuck in a smelly garbage can, it's stinky inside here. I'll be brave and unafraid, I'll triumph over fear. P-U, what am I gonna do? P-U, what am I gonna do? I'll do the can, I can do anything, can, I'll do the can, with a better plan. I'll do the can, I can do anything, can, I'll do the can, with a better plan. I gonna do?
What am I gonna do? Okay, so that was that song.
Oh,
We have sweet songs too, but that
yeah,
was,
I love it. I love it. I
that's
can
why
say my kids would have loved that one,
right,
especially.
right.
Yeah.
Especially, you're also kind of like, us adults should be singing this song at night. It's like, P-U-B-U, what am I gonna do? And then it's like, I can do the can, if I can.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for doing the Broadway version for us.
No, I am not a professional singer, please. I just pretend to be.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Everybody pretends at some point, right? Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you guys for, Alex says awesome.
Thank you, Alex. Don't tell anybody that I sang live.
Hey, it's out here now. You can't deny it. I'm going to send a copy to every one of your friends.
Yeah, it's probably good vibe material. When it really goes big, you could say, "You remember that time?"
That's right. That's right. Well, it has been such a pleasure having you here. And I know we got off on tangents about all the things, but I really wanted everybody to know how amazing this penny is. And what's the penny's name?
Well, it's called the Luckiest Penny, and there's Henry. Henry's the one that's all heart, that's like us, that's gone through so much, and then there's Alistair, never been touched, perfect, perfection.
All right, so you guys will have to be watching for the Luckiest Penny because it's going to be everywhere. I feel it. And so I'm so excited to have met you when you were such a young newbie with your Luckiest Penny. And so when you get famous, really, really famous, you can say, yeah, I went on that podcast. That's where I was.
And let me just finish with this. Fame is an illusion. It's heart to heart. I was right where I needed to be. And honest to God, your personality is just brilliant and enlightened and happy and peachy.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to, is there anything else that you want to say before we end the podcast? Anything?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Complete.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to leave with one of my favorite quotes, and I've still got to, I know somebody told me who did it, and I'm going to have to write it down, but I do not remember. Maybe you will know. But it's the best way to predict the future is create it. That is my favorite quote. And so I always end with that. So thank you all for being here and participating and playing with us. And so I'm so grateful for having you here, Deborah, and getting to know you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Vicki.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Mwah.
Mwah.